One of my favorite Trackmaster and Tomy models is probably the Percy. It's nostalgic, it looks good, and it gets the job done. But there's one thing about it that's always kinda irked me. Why is it as big as literally every other engine? Now, we know logically it's because it has to fit a pretty big battery, but I'm pretty sure there's other engines smaller than that have maybe smaller batteries that, I don't know, seem more a fitting size. Why didn't they ever fix this? Well, if that wasn't enough context clues, that's exactly what we're talking about today. I've wanted to make a custom Trackmaster Percy for a while, one that had a more fitting size and maybe more of a unique take. And thankfully, after the Lakota train show, I did just that, or had the opportunity to. That being all thanks to my friend Robbie, who sold me a Trackmaster Charlie there. Now, kinda like I hinted in the beginning, Trackmaster Charlie is a very small Trackmaster model. Smaller than Percy, which to me is, I don't know, if they can make Charlie this small, why did they never make Percy this small? Just why? Well, using that Charlie, I decided I would finally do what Tomy and Trackmaster never did. Make a somewhat accurately proportioned Percy. So the moment I had this Charlie, I pretty quickly took him apart. The cab was pretty important, I wanted to keep that intact. But I took off the pretty square boiler he normally has, and also did some modification to the chassis. I took off the side rods, the front wheels, and the motor completely, and then using a Dremel cut off the middle wheel, pretty easily making it an 040. The model would need a new boiler though, and the only thing I had on hand was a, spare Trackmaster Skarloey. The lining would be a little bit different, but I did want this to be an odd take on Percy anyway, so I figured I'd give it a shot. And pretty quickly that was cut down and fit to the front as well. I also decided the smoke box was a little off and didn't actually reach the footplate all the way, so that was replaced with a Tomy James one. I removed the Skarloey nameplate and the original cab sticker of the Charlie, and pretty quickly had the entire thing primed over. For the chassis itself, before I reassembled it, I sprayed the entire thing a matte black. This a couple times over so the black wouldn't rub off when it's running. And of course did some tests to make sure that was okay. Once that was done, it was time for the green, this time being a part green from Tamiya. And shortly after that came hand painting the matte black, this being done with apple barrel. Originally, I was going to mask off and spray the cab details, but I decided that would be a little too risky this far into the customization, so instead I got some painter's tape, masked it off as best as I could, and hand painted on the cab door and cab windows. On the left side the door was a little bit thin, and on the right side the window was a bit, short, but this thankfully was pretty easily fixed, and for the first time in forever I think that actually worked. And the side of Percy was pretty quickly done. For the lining on the boiler, I used a red paint pen, and then using the same matte black I used for the smoke box and smaller details painted the buffers and, other small things. At this point, I decided I wanted Percy to be a little different amongst the other Trackmaster engines I have, so I weathered him up pretty well. If you've seen my video on it, you may know Put Upon Percy is my favorite Percy episode ever, if not my favorite Thomas and Friends episode ever, so a well-used look is something I'm pretty fond of. Sadly, for a while he didn't have a face, but I did find an old Percy toy, took the face from that and put that on the front. I do need to match some paint to touch it up, but at least he has one for now. The entire thing was sealed in with matte clear. I refitted a battery and did some test runs.
Percy.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to where Percy is now. My first real custom Trackmaster in almost 2 years. And what do I call this thing? Well, I don't really know. During the process, I had Audrey's spare Percy in mind, since that's a model I'm pretty fond of, but let's be honest, it doesn't really look like that at all. If you ask me, it kinda looks like a Caledonian pug. So maybe you can call it that, maybe you can call it Audrey inspired. I just call it accurately proportioned. And Percy. My take on him, I guess. And now I kinda need your guys' help. What should I do for the 6? I've been torn between getting a decal to fit on the side or maybe just hand painting a 6 on. Be sure to let me know in the comments what you think would be better. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the long and short of how I made this Percy. There's really not much to say about it besides I had the idea and decided to do it. And thankfully, if you ask me, it turned out pretty okay. This is a model I'm very fond of. I told myself I wouldn't make others besides this, but I kinda want to make a Thomas to go beside him now too, so expect this guy to hopefully have some friends in the near future. But with all of that being said, let's finally see this guy in action. He's a trooper! If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for even more train content. And really quick, I'd like to apologize for my voice being a little off in this video. My allergies have hit me like a freight train recently, so I might sound a bit sickly. But hopefully that aside, you maybe learned a little bit for your Trackmaster custom needs, and enjoyed the process of how I made my smaller Percy model. As always, I want to give a huge thank you and shout out to my patrons for making videos like this possible. If you want to see that Thomas or other videos like this early, be sure to check that out in the description. And with all of that being said, thanks again for watching, guys. And I'm gonna go make myself some tea, and try not to sound like a dying Shrek.